And happy Saturday morning, and welcome to this fifth edition of the second season of Fantasy Football Come True. I'm your host, Hot Rod Funderburg. You can catch Fantasy Football Come True every week, every Saturday morning, right here on Tobacco Road Sports Radio. This is the show that wants to see you put some green in your jeans. And today I'm joined by Ron Fun. B. Foster is out on assignment. Ron Fun, we back in the house again, ready to talk a little fantasy football in week 5. Can you believe the quarter of the season is just about up?
It is crazy, man, that the first 4 weeks are done. But as one coach has previously said, you judge your team in quarters. And if you were to judge us in quarters, man, I think we're doing pretty good for this first quarter of the season.
My brother, I think we are doing excellent this first quarter of the season. Everything has been lovely. So, Ron Fun, we're going to go ahead, get started, and all that good stuff. How you doing down there in Raleigh, though, man? I meant to ask you that. I always like to start the show off making sure everybody's good, everybody's all right. How you doing in Raleigh, the capital city of NC, North Carolina?
Oh, man, we're doing well, man. NC State is coming off of 2 wins. We beat Louisiana Tech, and we beat them Clemson Tigers. So, Raleigh is on a roll.
Yeah, y'all ought to be popping down there, beating them Clemson Tigers, baby. But, Clemson's got a down year. NC State's having an up year. Keep it going. Keep it going. So enjoy your bye week. Get healed up. Hope that the Wolfpack gets what they need on this bye week so that they can come out cranking next week, because it won't be long. You'll have to travel over. Or no, the Tar Heels will be traveling to you guys this year in November, right around Thanksgiving time. So, of course, we always look forward to that game, that college game. Well, Ron, we're going to go ahead and get it cracking. We're in week 5. My Cowboys got a win against the Panthers on Sunday. I just had to put that out there. And, of course, there's still one undefeated team left in the NFL, the Arizona Cardinals, led by Kyler Murray at the helm. So we don't have long run. We're going to get into it. There were a few games that we highlighted last week, and we need to find out what happened. We talked about the Minnesota Vikings, Cleveland Browns game. We also talked about that Seattle Seahawks and 49ers game, which turned out to be a 49-point game. And I know you said last week that game was going to get close to 50 points if it didn't hit 50 points. And, of course, we briefly discussed the Cowboys-Panthers games. And then B. Foster talked about Tennessee Jets game because we thought Henry should be able to put up some points. And, of course, Derrick Henry had 157 yards rushing, 2 receptions for 20 yards, and a touchdown. And then, of course, Ron Fun, you in particular talked about Calvin Ridley, wide receiver for the Atlanta Falcons. Ron, you said start this man, Calvin Ridley, against the Washington Football Club. He had 7 receptions for 80 yards, didn't have a touchdown. Talk to us a little bit about what you had going on last week in fantasy football and some of the players that were highlighted last week.
Okay. Calvin Ridley, I definitely highlighted him. He almost got close to paying off. 7 receptions, that's great in the reception category. 80 yards, that's great for a total of 15 points. It would have been nice if he could have gotten closer to 20 with the touchdown, but he was in a smash position going against the Washington Redskins that we highlighted was going to be a high-scoring game, and that was true. It's just been nice if Calvin Ridley would have done a little bit more. But had you started Ridley in your lineup, he wouldn't have hurt you too bad. But there was one more guy that we highlighted last week in multiple segments. It was in the where the listeners asked us a segment, and then we also said a stardom segment, and that was Deebo Samuels.
Yes.
Deebo had a game and a half last week, and it went as I described. San Francisco was going to be down against the Seattle Seahawks, and they were going to have to pass the ball. And the San Francisco 49ers had nothing in the backfield, and they just kept giving that ball to Samuel, just as mentioned. So if you put Samuel in your lineup last week, you smashed and ran all the way to the bank and back again, as mentioned in our segment.
Yes, you did, all the way. And, of course, B. Foster is not with us this evening, or this morning, excuse me. I'm trying to make it be evening already. I'm ready to go see some college football, my man. But anyway, B. Foster is not with us this morning. And there was one wide receiver that B. Foster said that we should start over another one for the Carolina Panthers. And it was based upon the way the Dallas Cowboys were playing. And, of course, This is a highlight of the Dallas Cowboy game and the Panthers game. B. Foster said we should start Robbie Anderson, who did have a pretty good game. He had 5 receptions for 46 yards, but no touchdowns. But he said to sit DJ Moore, the wide receiver for the Panthers, who wound up having 8 receptions, 113 yards, and 2 touchdowns. But we got to understand why he said to sit DJ Moore, and that's because how well Diggs, cornerback for the Cowboys, had been playing. And of course, don't get me wrong, you never know how a team is going to use a player. And if you remember in that Panthers-Cowboys game, the Panthers used DJ Moore really as if he was also Christian McCaffrey. So they moved him around to get those mismatches and those matchups that were favorable for the Panthers. So, of course, if you have a DJ Moore who's in the backfield, you're not going to have Diggs covering him. You're going to have Diggs on the wide receiver. And that's something that the Panthers did. Any comments on that?
Man, I really think the Panthers coaching staff realized that the Dallas defense is really strong. I believe they realize that Diggs is such a strong performer. Although they threw to Diggs twice or a couple times where Diggs came up with big picks, I think they realized that they needed to get the ball into the hands of their best player, and that's DJ Moore in the absence of Christian McCaffrey. So although the Panthers lost last week, I like what they're doing. I think they have a great future ahead of them. But at the same time, those Dallas Cowboys are making me eat my words from last year to the beginning of this season. And I think y'all could go. I think y'all could go this year. I think you could go all the way with a strong defense and a strong offense the way you got it.
Well, I'm not sure if we'll be able to go all the way, Ron Fun. We still got Jerry Jones in the picture, still causing trouble and making noise. And I'm going to get off subject talking about Jerry Jones real quick. And what I mean by that, he's still causing trouble and making noise. Our head coach, Mike McCaffrey. Oh, Lord, I can't even get his name out. McCarthy. Yeah. McCarthy just made Mr. Jalen Smith, a captain on Sunday against the Panthers. Just made him a captain. And then on Tuesday, Jerry Jones calls him in the office and cuts him.
And you traded him to the Green Bay Packers.
He traded him to the Green Bay Packers. So again, here is Jerry Jones still getting this way. He will not let us do what we need to do. Therefore, I am still skeptical about my Cowboys as long as Jerry Jones is still messing around in the Kool-Aid. How do you do that? How do you make a man a captain on Sunday and then fire him on Tuesday? Why? Because the head coach didn't know, because the owner's all up in the Kool-Aid getting his mixture in. What you think about Jerry? He's still doing that.
Oh, man, that's disappointing to hear, because I really do think your defense has come a long way. And if Jalen Smith has been a big part of that, I know he was a first-round draft pick previous year. So if he was a big part of that, you've only given Green Bay Packers more weapons on their team that they don't really need right now. It might come back to bite you in the playoffs.
I believe it will, because it just made the Green Bay Packers defense, at least the middle of the defense, those linebacking core, it made them much faster, because Jalen Smith is a fast-moving linebacker. Although he had that horrific knee injury, I mean, he's still running a 4.5 right now. So 4.5 at linebacker, that's good speed, getting to the edges, getting to the edge of the line of scrimmage, keeping those plays wide, running your running backs out of bounds, and frankly, just getting to the running back to take them down. But anyway, I'm going to leave that alone. We on fantasy football right now, Ron Fun. Talk to us about what else happened in your week this past week so the fantasy audience can know how well you did.
Oh, man, last week we had a great week. Our picks were on point. Even guys who barely made the list of the sit 'em and start 'em segment, like David Montgomery, we talked about him. He crushed it. And then I'd just say overall, we had a really smash out week with our selections. And if you put them in place, for the most part, you did well. There were definitely some guys that we thought about who were in smash spots, like Derrick Henry. We thought him going against the New York Jets last week, he would have definitely been in a smash spot. And then Devontae Adams. I definitely know that B. Foster really liked him going against Pittsburgh. But if you recall in some of our off-take conversations, I definitely was kind of a little weak on going against anybody against that Steelers defense, especially the running backs, even the wide receivers, because their defense is really strong. And in fantasy football, you don't want to get points the hard way. You want to get points the easy way. And the easy way is to figure out the game scripts and find players in games that are advantaged or utilizing their skill sets. And so with that being said, last week was a smash spot week for us as a network.
Ron Fun, you right on point. It was smash mouth. It was great. And thank you for that nugget reminding the audience, hey, you got to find those defenses that can allow you to get some easy points, not those hard points. So my strategy, Ron, has been, and of course I learned it from you and B. Foster, is to try and find those defenses that are not in the top 20 of the NFL. And if I can find those defenses that are not in the top 20 and figure out who's playing against them, then that's where I'm going to try and focus most of my energy, or a lot of my energy anyway, to making sure that, hey, we have a good week in fantasy football. So Ron Fum, we got a lot to talk about. We got a lot to cover. As everybody can see, you're on point in week 4. All our fantasy football listeners listening out there, stay tuned. Listen to us. Take heed to what we're telling you, because we're keeping you on point. And I tell you what, coming up, we're going to have to take a quick break. But coming up, Ron Fund and I will be responding to some listeners who wanted to know about what players they should start or sit this week. And that's going to be coming up in our sit 'em or start 'em segment. But first, when we come back, we will be giving the audience the inside scoop, at least our inside scoop, on this upcoming week 5 of fantasy football competition. And of course, you stay tuned right here to Tobacco Road Sports Radio, because that's coming up next on Fantasy Football Come True. And welcome back to Fantasy Football Come True right here on Tobacco Road Sports Radio, your network for the best fantasy football around, especially here in the Triad. I'm your host, Hot Rod Thunderbird. I'm here with our big-time fantasy baller, playmaker, Ron Fun. And, of course, we hope everyone had a successful week 4 of fantasy football. And we know that you'll have an excellent week 5, as long as you stay tuned right here to Fantasy Football Come True. Take these nuggets that we're dropping, look into it, because we're giving you all the tools that you need to be successful. So all you have to do is take it, apply it, and you're off and running. And as Ron Fun likes to say, you're running straight to the bank. And Ron Fun, it looks like the formula hasn't changed. Everybody is still staying true to the formula, always trying to find the value guys out there, find those defenses, find those guys, wide receivers who are getting a lot of targets, find those games that you think are going to have high scoring points, and get in those games, and you will be smiling and you'll be happy. So Ron Fun, we're going to take a look at this upcoming week 5 of fantasy football. Remember, this is a show that also wants to find some of those value players for our audience, because if everyone has all the big names in the big field, then hey, guess what? We're all going to be even. But if you can find a couple of those guys here and there that are value players, they could possibly get you over the hump to beat the rest of the field. So we have a few pretty good contests coming up this week in week 5 of the NFL. We got the 49ers. They are taking on the Cardinals. Of course, we got the Bills at the Chiefs. It's not a big slate game, but I think it will be a fun game to check out. The Browns are visiting the Chargers, Packers over at Bengals. The Titans are taking on their lap dancing Jaguars.
That's a good one.
I had to throw that out there for Urban Meyer, y'all that are listening. And of course, the New York Jets are going to be traveling to Atlanta. The Lions, they're going to be at the Vikings. And of course, my Cowboys are hosting the New York Giants. And the Patriots are taking a trip on out to Houston to take on the Texans. Ron Fun, what matchups are you looking that will be able, you think, will heat up your pocket, put a little green in your jeans this week and take you all the way to the bank, my friend?
Hey, before I answer that, I got a goodie for the audience listening.
Okay.
The goodie for the audience listening is go to cometruenetwork.com. Go to the website, cometruenetwork.com, and you can look at all of our picks and cheat sheet picks for the week. So that's where everything's going to be, but we're going to also talk about it here on the segment. And the last thing I'm going to talk about is we know now how Urban Meyer was able to recruit all those players. He loved those lap dances for all them players in the championship games.
Yes, he did.
But we're going to get to it, man. I'm gonna tell you the game that I really, really like this week is the Vikings versus the Lions. The Vikings had a horrendous week last week against the Browns, and one thing I know about football is that professionals do not have 2 bad weeks in a row. Their pride, their hunger, their heart won't let it happen. The coaching game plan won't let it happen. So with the Vikings losing last week to the Browns, I think everybody for the Vikings are in a smash spot, a bounce back week. And I'm also liking the fact that the Detroit Lions weak defense, but Jared Goff has heart and the whole team has heart, and it's going to be a closer game than Vegas says. That game is coming in at 48.5 points, and I just believe it's set up for a smash spot for some of our players.
I think you're right, Ron Fun. I think you're definitely right. Taking a look at a couple of games myself, and I'm gonna stay true to form because that's what I got to do. I don't have much choice, especially when I got you eating crow over there. That don't get to happen too often. But I'm gonna stay focused on them Giants and the Cowboys. Again, like I told you, I take the nuggets from you, B. Foster. You say, hey, look for those good teams that are playing that are not in the top 20, and we know that the Giants defense is not in the top 20. And of course, on the other side of that, Dak is going to hopefully play well. And, Pollard, he is behind that line pushing Zeke. And so Zeke is trying to play well so he doesn't lose his job. So I think the Cowboys have a real opportunity to put some points up, at least, against the Giants. And then on the other side of that, like y'all always say, if a team is able to score points, guess what? The other team has to come back and try and keep up with them. So that's a game that I think could be a high-scoring game because although you did say Dallas is playing well, if you do take a look at it, Dallas's defense is still allowing quite a bit of points every week. They really are. The defense is just able to get those crucial turnovers at the moments that they really need them. So I am looking at that Giants-Cowboys game, and hopefully there can be some winners picked out of there. And then, of course, I would take a look at that Saints-Washington ball club game.
Oh, that's interesting.
So I'm thinking that Washington, that defense, they're okay, but they've slid a little bit. And then, of course, we know the Saints are allowing over 400 yards in the past few games of passing on that defense. So that gives an opportunity maybe to find some players out of that game. So that's why I'm looking at that game. Plus, it's an East Coast game. Don't have to travel far. Everybody should be up and ready to rock and roll. It's kind of one of those 95, 85 corridor games. So I look for that to be a tough game. And then, of course, it's just a game I'm going to be looking forward to watching because I think anything could happen in this game. Of course, it's not on the main slate. And that game that I'm talking about are the Buffalo Bills taking on the Kansas City Chiefs. I think that's going to be a fun one, Ron.
Yeah, it's going to be exciting, man. But if I had to give the listeners one more, I think you should stay tuned to that Cincinnati Bengals versus the Green Bay Packers game. The Packers are also coming off of a bounce back week where they played the Pittsburgh Steelers very tough, where people had low production, especially Devontae Adams. And then also, given that the Packers are going to score, the Bengals are going to have to put up points. And with their running back, Mixon being injured, I think there's a lot more production that can be spread across Jamar Chase and Boyd and several other folks in that game. So that's another game to look at this coming week.
Ron Fun, I completely agree with you on that game. As you said, it should be some scoring. So far, the Green Bay Packers have scored at least 30 points in all of their games, except the first game, which is the game that you said Aaron Rodgers just had some rust, a lot of issues with the club, so he was coming back. But since then, the Green Bay Packers have put up 30 points in every game. And then, of course, the Cincinnati Bengals have put up, at least 20 points in every game. So now if you add that up, you're talking at least 50 points. So you are right on point on that, Ron Fun. Definitely. Well, Ron Fun, I'm going to tell you what, man, we got to move on. The show goes so fast, but this is the part of the show where we want to try and answer some questions for listeners. And this is our Stardom Sit-em segment. And of course, we got a few emails asking, well, we got more than a few emails, but we can only have time for so many. So Ron Fun, I'm going to go ahead and hit this Stardom segment with you, Stardom or Sit-em segment with you. And we've got our first email that came in that wants to know, Chicago Bears running back Damian Williams. Should you start or sit Damian Williams?
Oh, man, you got to start that man this week. He is what we call chalk in fantasy football. Chalk is he's going to be highly owned. You have to have him. on your team, because if he does really well and you don't have him, you hurt yourself. And if he doesn't do really well, you don't really hurt yourself because the whole field had him. And because he's coming in so cheap at 5,600, his point total gives you an opportunity to pay up for other guys and lock in a good running back in your backfield for 5,600. So I would say start Damian Williams, primarily because David Montgomery is out this week.
No doubt. And Ron Fun, you've got the other email that came in to you. So we can just switch it back and forth off of each other if you want to, my man.
Let's do it. But before I switch to you, Rod Cole sent in his favorite Packers. He's going to be on the show next week, but
okay.
This week Rod Cole asked about Devontae Adams.
He always asks about Devontae Adams. He was going to be the next email that I read. He's sitting right here. Rod Cole always asks about Devontae Adams. So what do you do with Devontae Adams, Ron Fun? You start him or you sit him?
I think you got to start that man. He received the most targets in the red zone prior to last week. I know last week they had a tough matchup against that Pittsburgh Steelers defense that I referenced earlier, but coming in at 8,200 off of a bounce back week, you got to start Devontae Adams, especially given that he's going against those Cincinnati Bengals in a high-scoring game. I know I'm kind of mentioning that a little bit twice on this segment, man, but that's just the conviction that I have. And then, again, Rod Cole, listeners out there, again, go to cometruenetwork.com and you can see our picks and see that Devontae Adams is one of the cash game picks of the week. Rod, what you got, man? I know you got something up your sleeve because you've been working the numbers over the last couple of weeks, man. What you got?
Oh, I've been working some numbers on you a little bit, Big Daddy, but I'm gonna go with this other email. We got an email that wants to know if we should start. Looks like Sterling Shepard, and that's a perfect question for me because Sterling Shepard, he's a Giants wide receiver. They're playing my Cowboys this week. So listen, my thing is this. I'm gonna take a little notes out of B. Foster's notebook. So last week, B. Foster said, hey, let's not start DJ Moore because Diggs is gonna be on the other side. So with the New York Giants, they have the two main receivers, Sterling Shepard and Kennedy Galladay. Kennedy Galladay is the main receiver. So I expect Diggs to be on Galladay. I expect him to be on Galladay like white on rice. So Sterling Shepard is sitting at $5,300. I say you start Sterling Shepard because the Cowboys are going to try to put up some points, and that's going to cause the New York Giants to have to put up their own points, and they're going to need to get some quick scores, quick hitters down the field. And if Kennedy Galladay is covered by Diggs, you have to find Sterling Shepard. So start Sterling Shepard is who I got, Ron Fun, on that particular game there. Yes, sir.
I love it. Is there anything else that you got? Any more nuggets coming out of that game that you
Now,
like?
listen, it's always going to be another one. No one has asked me about this, but since you're going to bring that up, what I have on my player list is somebody else in that game. But in that game, it's going to be on the Cowboys side. And I know you're probably thinking Amari Cooper or you're thinking CeeDee Lamb. No, neither one of those. I'm going to the tight end, Dalton Schultz, the value guy that I was talking about that can make a difference on your fantasy squad. Dalton Schultz is only 4,400. He's been targeted 23 times by Dak. He had 2 touchdowns in the last 2 games. This guy, I think Dak loves him. He's almost like the old Jason Witten, Dak security blanket. So in my opinion, Dalton Schultz, you got to have him in this game, Ron Fun. Got to have him.
Okay. I got one more email coming in. Washington football team fan asks, what do you do with Scary Lauren McLaurin? I think that's what his name is.
You're talking about old Terry McLaurin up there.
Yeah,
okay,
Scary Terry McLaurin.
Now look, Terry's a little expensive. I mean, he's $7,400, but the Washington Football Club, they are going against the Saints. And Ron, you said it earlier, the Saints have been giving up over 400 yards in passing in all these games that they have been playing so far. They're not a top 20 defense who Washington's taking on. So in my opinion, Terry McLaurin, you're going against the Saints. They give up points. You told the family audience today, Ron. You just said it. Get points the easy way. Don't go get those hard defenses. So Terry McLaurin, Scary Terry, And I'm not a Washington fan at all, but you got to start this man against the Saints, and you got to let him do what he does. And he's coming in at $7,400, Ron Fun. And that's all I got for you today. Oh, Scary Terry, my man.
I love it.
Any other nuggets you want to drop on the audience, Ron Fun, for we had to get out of here? Because our time goes by so fast, my man.
Don't really have anything else other than, again, a long shot, a cheap long shot in the event that you need a stash. Hunter Renfrow coming in at 4,900 for the Las Vegas Raiders, and he's going against Chicago. He's putting up 13 to 15 points a week. He's getting a significant amount of targets, and he's definitely somebody who can help round out your lineup. I wouldn't put him in first, but in terms of just rounding out your lineup, he's there. And then also AJ Green, a name that we haven't heard in a long time. He has been balling out this season.
Yes, he has. Yes,
so
he has.
He's coming in at 5,100 points. That's all I got for you. Going deep in the value list for the listeners out there.
No doubt. Ron Fun, we appreciate you. You know, we've done it, and that's going to do it for our fantasy show today. Audience, we hope that you've got some nuggets out from Ron Fun and myself, Hot Rod Funderburk. We always having fun on fantasy football, but we also trying to put some green in your jeans. Ron Fun, before we get out of here, let the fantasy audience know how they can get a hold of you, my man.
Hey, you can reach me on all the major social media platforms, such as Instagram and Twitter, with the handle @RonFun, @RonFun. Also, you can catch us and our picks on the ComeTrueNetwork.com website. Again, week by week, we keep adding new features, new information out there. It doesn't look pretty, but it's very valuable. And if you went there the past couple of weeks, you actually were able to put some green in your jeans.
No doubt, baby. And that's what we want. So on behalf of Ron Fun and myself, I'm your host, Hot Rod Funderburk. Make sure you tune in next week to another listen and edition of Fantasy Football Come True. This is the only show that wants to see you put money in your pocket.